white tears in general, because that's what Karens are, right?
White, super white, like, mayonnaise sandwich on Wonder Bread, white.
Now we're gonna try something new and do a quick hits round of some of the craziest stories that have come across my desk in the last couple of days. Up first, the worst woke journalist in America just got brutally canceled. Reid of MSNBC infamy just had her show canceled. And while I'm sure whatever replaces it will be similarly left-wing, it is honestly kind of good to see somebody who's so brazenly lied, been so brazenly racist, actually face some sort of career consequences for that. If you're a regular viewer of my show, you'll know all about this woman because she gives us so much content. But here's a summation of some of her greatest hits, like when she said that Kamala ran a flawless campaign, Republicans invented the idea of inflation as a boogeyman, and her bizarre rants about white people to boot.
I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed. So it's interesting that Republicans are doing something they don't normally do, right? Which is not use the common tongue, right? Not use just common English to sort of do on their campaigns like they're doing with crime. But what they've done is they've taught people the word inflation, right? Yeah. Most people who would have never used that word ever in their lives are using it now because they've been taught it.
In America, there's a thing about both white vigilantism and white tears, particularly male white tears. Really white tears in general, because that's what Karens are, right?
White, super white, like, mayonnaise sandwich on Wonder Bread, white.
So from the perspective of like journalism and media, it is unquestionably a positive development that such a dishonest and unhinged character lost their job and their position of prominence at a national media company. I mean, she lied. She had all these old offensive blog posts that she just lied and denied ever writing and claimed she was hacked, and the FBI investigated, and nope, no proof of hacking. I'm not one to cancel one over saying offensive things years ago, but you have to apologize and take accountability, not gaslight and lie and invent a fake story about being hacked when you're supposed to be a journalist who tells the truth that people can trust. So to me, she never should have been employed at MSNBC in the first place. And then to spend years just spewing the most vile, extreme rhetoric and the worst political analysis imaginable, and yet be promoted constantly, was always wild to me. I will say, it's bad news for me that she will no longer have a show, because content-wise, she was kind of the gift that kept on giving. Up next, Democrats in this blue state are doing something very creepy. As reporting from local news outlet reads, Maryland lawmakers advance bill legalizing contraceptive vending machines in public schools. Bill permits contraceptive vending machines in nursery schools. Maryland's House of Delegates on Friday reversed a criminal law banning condoms and other birth control contraceptives from being sold in public school vending machines. Now, what's crazy about this is that it doesn't apply just to like high schools, where I'm not sure it would be appropriate to sell condoms in vending machines, but at least you could argue as part of sex ed or safe sex or something, and there are going to be people having sex in high school, if you're being honest, you could at least be somewhere in the universe of a reasonable conversation there. But this bill specifically repealed the prohibition on this even in elementary schools. Now, that doesn't mean they will go ahead and actually put them in the vending machines at the nursery and elementary school level, but it is just wild and an example of like how out of touch Democratic lawmakers are sometimes. Do they not realize how these things are going to be perceived? Up next, the formerly body positive and morbidly obese pop star Lizzo is now losing a lot of weight and getting fit and getting healthy, and honestly looking way better.
If being sexy was a crime, I'd be serving life in prison for multiple homicides.
Now, I have super mixed emotions about this. On one hand, I'm really happy for her that she's taking these positive steps in her health and probably extending her life and saving herself from the very serious health complications that come with her previous state of morbid obesity. She looks so much better. She looks happier, healthier, more energetic. I'm happy for her. But this woman spent years being morbidly obese and proud and telling people it's beautiful and wonderful and encouraging people to love their body no matter what, even if they're 400 pounds and obese, morbidly obese or whatever. And clearly she no longer believes that, at least not for herself. But where's the public apology? and encouraging your fans to also make healthier choices and improve, and apologize for spreading medical misinformation and encouraging unhealthy habits among your millions of fans. That's what I want to know. It's great that you're making this personal progress, but without kind of a mea culpa for the toxic and misleading and self-destructive narrative you pushed for years, you just look like a fraud and a hypocrite. And the damage you've done needs to be addressed. Up next, this woke British actor has a message for America.
What do people in London think about America right now?
I think we are worried for you and for us. I think it's scary that, I don't know, how easily things can spread.
Ooh, babe, nothing, and I mean nothing, gets me more patriotic. And I criticize our country, I criticize our government, I'm criticizing the president, no matter who it is, when I agree, whether I disagree. I don't think we're perfect. We got plenty of problems, but nothing, I swear, nothing gets me more patriotic quicker than a British person talking shit about America. Babe, worry about yourself. You should be worried about the fact that in your country, they are arresting grandmas for their Facebook posts. They are arresting people for silently praying. It's the audacity for me to be sitting there across the pond in a country literally sliding into woke dystopia and say you're worried about us because you don't like our president or the right-wing politics that are kind of leading the country right now. Something glass houses, babe. Like, your country is in disarray with your healthcare system, your socialist healthcare system in collapse, the police becoming literal thought police, and you have the audacity to throw shade at us. We're worried about you to the extent that we think about you at all. Up next, Trump just made a really interesting claim that has fact checkers working in overtime.
3.5 million people from the age 140 to 149 years old. 1.3 million people are on Social Security from the age 150 to 159. And over 130,000 people are on Social Security over the age of 160 years old, okay? Including 1,039 people, think of it, over 1,000 people between the ages of 220 to 229.
So this is really misleading and not really factually correct. There are a lot of people listed on the Social Security rolls who don't have a death date recorded, and that's what he's citing here. But that does not mean they're collecting benefits. In fact, an Inspector General report in 2023 looked at a bunch of these kinds of number holders who were above age that you would expect somebody to be alive, and found that almost none of them receive currently Social Security assistance payments. And the agency automatically cuts off payments when somebody in the system reaches 115 years old. Now, to be clear, they're surely sending a lot of people money incorrectly. I'm sure there's a massive amount of fraud or just waste and kind of mistaken and erroneous payments. We see this in other systems, though I actually think Social Security is not as bad as like Medicare. Medicare's improper payment rates are insane. And I totally support the Doge goal of like downsizing government, cutting waste and fraud that is rife in the federal government. However, accuracy still matters. And Trump first said this like a week ago, but now just said it again. And I really would expect him to have had his staff point out, like, you need to be much more precise. What you're saying isn't accurate. But to be repeating this when it's not true and it's misleading actually hurts the case for cutting fraud, because it allows people to dismiss the whole thing as irrelevant and fake when there absolutely are real problems there. We're seeing some of this sloppiness with the Doge efforts, where they're not dotting their I's and crossing their T's, and they're not fact checking everything they're putting out, and they're moving very quickly. And I worry that that will discredit or hamper their goal and their initiative when we really need it. We really need to cut government spending and cut down on waste and fraud. But the way they're going about it and kind of just throwing out really shocking claims without fact checking them is not a good look and is not productive. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe if you aren't yet. And we'll talk again real soon.